Hi, welcome to Big Daddy Bakes. I'm Big Daddy, and today we're going to be making muesli bread. Muesli is a hot cereal that contains 9 grains and fruit, and I have combined that cereal with a nice soft bread, and you end up with muesli bread. It's delicious and it's very easy to make, so I'll show you how to do it. Let's get to it. For this recipe you will need 4 cups of bread flour. I like to use King Arthur. 1 cup of muesli. 1/4 cup dates and 1/2 cup of raisins. 2 cups of boiling water. 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. 1 teaspoon of salt. 2 teaspoons of good olive oil, and then 1 tablespoon of honey. We have our boiling water, our muesli, and our fruit. We're going to tip the muesli, the dates and raisins in a large bowl. You want to get this a big bowl, you're going to need it later. And then we're going to pour the water over it, and we're going to let this sit for about 20 to 25 minutes, and that will plump up the fruit and will make it quite soft, and it will also soften the grains. So I'll be back in about 25 minutes. So our muesli and fruit has been sitting for 20 minutes, and you'll notice it's a much plumper than it was when it went in. And I'm going to measure the temperature. I have 112. I'd like to get it down to about 110. And I find if you just stir it a little bit, you can get that last bit of temperature down. The reason you want the temperature below 110 is you don't want to kill your yeast. So I'm showing now 104, 108. So I think we're good. So the next thing I'm going to do is add the olive oil. I'm going to add the salt. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of honey, and I'm just going to eyeball a tablespoon. I'm going to stir that around a little bit. Then I'm going to add the yeast. I'm going to stir that in. And at this point, I'm going to add in half of my flour. Now, of that 4 cups of flour, you want to save out 1/2 cup. So we're actually going to use 3.5 cups with this. We might need a little more, we might need a little less, but usually it's about 1/2 cup difference. Flour absorbs differently some days than other days. It just depends on how moist the flour is, or if it's very dry. Now this is going to look very, very soupy, and so I'm going to let this sit for about 15 minutes, and then just to let the rest of the flour absorb, and we're going to let the rest of the grains absorb a little more of the water, and this flour will pump up. Plus this will be a double check on our yeast. So I'm going to cover this, and I'll be back in about 15 minutes. Okay, so it's been 15 minutes, and we can see this is puffed up. So now I'm going to start adding in the rest of my flour. I'm going to set just a little back and see if we need it. As I said, some days you need more flour than others. And I think that's all it's going to take. So there's probably about half a cup left there, which we'll probably need as I start kneading. So I'm going to tip this out onto my board. And I'm going to start the kneading process. So initially, this is going to be very, very soft, and you just need to turn it on itself. And the rest of that flour will incorporate. Alright. It's a very, very soft dough at the moment. So I'm going to add a little bit more of that flour. I'm going to work that in. Now you don't want to add so much flour that it's just completely dry. You want this to be nice and soft dough, but not completely. Alright, so now we're to the point where we can start kneading. So you're going to push forward and then twist and push forward and twist. So that's the action that's needed. Kneading is basically just to develop the gluten so you actually have bread. Without it, you don't have bread. I'm not sure what it would be. I'm just going to keep kneading. This will probably take between 12 and 15 minutes of kneading. Alright, I think this dough has gotten to the stage I want it. It does do a window pane, although it's going to still look a little craggy because you've got all the seeds and fruit in it. I put about a teaspoon of oil in the bowl. I'm going to roll that around in it, and then I'm going to let it sit for about an hour and let it do its first rising. It should double in bulk, and I will be back in an hour. So here's our dough. It has risen. It's about doubled in size. So I'm going to get rid of the air in it and put it back on my board. I'm going to stretch it out to just about the size of my pan, and then I'm going to roll it up jelly roll style. But you don't want any air in there. You want it to get a good seal with itself. And when you get to the end, you just need to pinch it together. Then we're going to put this into our pan, which I'm going to put a little pan release in. And then we'll let this rise for about 30 minutes. So as you can see, this has risen. It's about an inch over the top of the pan, and it's ready to go into the oven. You should have your oven set at 425, and this will bake in this 9x5 pan. It will probably take about 40 minutes. I'll start checking it at 35 minutes, but it could go all the way up to 50 minutes. And what you're wanting to do is to get to an internal temperature of the bread to 190 degrees. When it comes out, I'll show you how I test it. Okay, so our bread has come out of the oven, and when we insert the thermometer, it reads 195. So it's perfectly done at 195. So I'm going to, you wait about 5 minutes and then you just tip it out and let it cool completely before you slice into it. If you don't, it's just going to be soggy mess. Here's our lovely muesli bread. It has a nice firm crust on the outside. It's soft and tender on the inside and studded with fruit. If you like what I do here on the channel, please consider subscribing. Also, if you could, please check the little bell to let you know when new episodes appear. Thank you so much for staying with us today on Big Daddy Bakes. Until next time.